All right, volume of a cylinder. Think back. We've talked about the formula for the volume of a prism. And this, there's a general one that works whether you've got a triangular prism or a rectangular prism, cube. Cube is a little bit different, but the same idea is the same. Similarly, it would work as long as you knew how to find the area of the base. So the formula for volume of a prism is volume is equal to area of the base times the height. Right? And whatever that turns out to be, right, times the height. So now, a rectangular prism, we often write the formula as V equals length times width times height. If you think about that, length times width, hey, that's the area of the base of that rectangle times the height, which is the same as length times width times height, right? Order of operations as we just do all of them at once. Well, one after the other, I should say. How can we use this to find the volume of a cylinder? Well, same way. If we've got a cylinder, and you can see at least part of one on the screen here already, volume is going to be the area of the base. I'm going to just put that as area of the base times the height. Now we have to think, okay, what's the area of a circle? Well, area of the circle is, think back to this, right, pi r squared. So this is going to be equal to pi times the radius squared times the height. Now, thinking a little bit order of operations wise, we don't have brackets here, so we don't have to worry about those, but we do have an exponent. So in our calculators, especially if we're doing them on a calculator, this has to get done first. We can't do pi times r and square that, because that's going to give us whatever the product of pi times r is and squared, which is going to make it too big. Okay, so we've got to do the radius squared bit first, multiply by pi, multiply by h. Or multiply by h, multiply by pi. It works the same either way. So let's take a look at it. Determine the volume of a cylinder when given the radius. So if we're given the radius, volume equals pi r squared h. Volume equals pi. What's our radius? 4.1 centimeters. Okay, 4.1, including the units, and that'll just remind me at the end that I need to have the units in my answer, times 11 centimeters. Alright, so my volume here, get out my calculator. You could do this by hand, but you don't need to. 4.1, and honestly, if I'm feeling lazy, I don't hit the find the x squared button on my calculator with something like this. 4.1 times 4.1, because that's really what squared means. Okay, and then multiply that by pi, and 3.14 is a good enough approximation, and multiply that by 11, we end up with 580.6174. We've got one decimal place here. Let's go to one decimal place in our answer. Centimeters, and our units are cubed. All right. Now, make sure you get that down and that you can actually get that result on your calculator. Moving on then. Calculate the volume of this cylinder. Now this looks funny. It's like it's on its side. Can I really think of that end as the base? Yes, you can. All right, I want you to solve that. Show all your work. I will be checking. I'm just going to give you the answer here, so I want you to be showing the work, show the formula, substitute in, and then give me the answer. With correct units. Okay, so I am going to move on here momentarily. So if you don't have a solution yet, right now would be a great time to pause so you can figure it out. Do that, please. My volume here is going to be, again, rounded to 1 decimal place. On my calculator, it came up as 131.88. Again, I'm rounding to 1 decimal place. And there we go. So make sure you can show how to get that. Don't just give me the answer, because I've given you the answer. Okay, what about this here? Well, you're given the diameter. Do we have a formula for the area of a circle that works with diameter? No. You got to use the diameter radius relationship, cut the diameter in half, and away we go. Cut the diameter in half, that gives us the radius. So let's take a look at our hockey puck. First thing we got to figure out is, well, what's the radius? And I want you to write it down. So R is equal to 7.6 centimeters. That's not great. Divided by 2. Which is going to be equal to 3.8 centimeters. Well, and now, it looks very much like the problem we just did, right? We have the radius, we have the height, and again, with a cylinder, the base is always the round part, the height is always the distance, I guess, from round part to round part. Okay, so pi times radius squared times the height. Again, I write down my formula. Volume equals pi times, make sure I get the actual radius here, 3.8 centimeters, and that's going to be squared. Again, I'm leaving the units here to remind myself I got to write units in my answer. And here we go. Okay, again, make sure you're multiplying the 3.8 and squaring that part first, especially if you're using the squared button. And make sure you hit all the buttons on your calculator. Times 2.5. There we go. 113. I'll round to 1 decimal place again. 4 centimeters cubed. Simple as that. This is happily one of the easier topics. Right, and show you now here. What volume of recyclable waste would fit into one of these bins? Well, again, I'm going to be asking to see this. Show all your work. I'm only going to show 2 steps here. I'm going to show what the radius is. Okay, so again, pause as I'm going to start writing the answer right away. Pause it and then unpause to find the answer once you have solved it. All right. Alright, so in terms of volume, is going to be 143,066. I'll just round to the nearest whole number, centimeters cubed. And there we go.